Hey guys, Zach from Kubota Lynchburg here. Wanted to talk to you guys today about the difference between the standard L series and the Kubota LX series. So there's a lot of different models in each series. So we're going to have a basic one here, or the most popular version in our opinion. We've got the L2501 versus the LX2610. These are the most two comparison models. Now Kubota makes an L33 and 3901 and an LX3310. They also make these in cab models and everything. We'll go over that way later in detail on the cab side of things. But today we're going to focus on these two models, pros, cons, and small feature differences between them. Because a lot of people, including the person filming this video right now, when she saw these two tractors, she said, wow, they look very similar to me. They look almost the same size. That is correct. While they might be almost the identical horsepower, 25 versus 26, there are a lot of little differences that add up to make a decision whether or not you should go with one versus the other. So that's what we're going to focus on today. If you're having difficulty making the decision, which 25 horsepower do I need, we're going to go over that. So we're going to kind of walk front to back, piece by piece. We're going to piecemeal this out and figure out what's the difference is. So we're going to start at the front with the buckets. We sell them both with quick attach buckets on the front end loaders. This bucket's going to be a 66-inch bucket, and this is going to be a 60-inch bucket. You can order different bucket sizes, but that's the standard size is 66 and 60 because of the width of the tractors. The loaders, they're rated for very similar lift capacities. We've actually done videos before on the actual lift capacity of the L2501 and the LA535 on this loader. But you have a difference in lift capacities by about 100 or so, maybe even a little bit more than that, more on the L2501 when you're maxing it out. Realistically, it's not a huge difference. That's less than a 10% difference between it. You won't feel a lot different between them when you're using it. You can see the overall profile of these loaders. This one, the loader arms are sitting below the hood. They're very narrow, tight in that hood. This is a very maneuverable tractor even with the loader on it. But it is a smaller frame piece and smaller steel than the L2501. Sits up taller. If something falls, it's going to hit these loader arms before it hits your hood. When something falls on top of your hood, hopefully it's going to hit this and bounce off prior to hitting your hood because this is solid steel. And you have a little bit bigger, little bit beefier arms because the L2501, in our opinion, is a little bit more of a industrial, a commercial grade machine, whereas the LX is more geared towards the small property, homeowner, landscaper type of things. So you've got those bigger loaders, you have similar lift capacities on it, but at the same time, you've got very similar specs to it, but beefy versus a little bit more maneuverable, a little bit more narrow. So we're going to go back. You can see as we move back here, the tires are different sizes. The L series has a slightly larger tire than the LX series. They all have the same tire options. You've got industrials, you've got the R14s, you've got turfs and ag tires on all of them. Just going to be slightly smaller tire, a little bit less traction for it. So this is a 26 horsepower engine versus 25. So talking about engine under the hoods now. Again, similar power to the ground. You could go up to that L3301, that L3901, or that LX3310 and gain more power as needed. Under the hoods, you can see they actually look very similar, the engines and the engine compartments. Kubota does make it very easy to pop the hoods and service it and get to all your integral components like your air filters, your batteries, your coolant and everything. So easy access, easy engines to work on, which is nice because there's no emissions on these 25 horsepowers. Next, we'll talk about that power to the ground and the axles. As you can see, this LX does have a smaller radius and a little bit lighter duty axle than if we go to the standard L. This is a massive, large cast axle. It's heavy duty, designed to withhold and withstand a beating on it, which again, you don't want to beat up your tractor, but it can handle it. Again, we're talking about a more lighter, homeowner, easier maneuver versus a heavier duty industrial. So we're going to work our way back to one of the more important features, the operator station. A lot of differences here on the LX versus the L series. We'll start with the LX. Very comfortable, very easy. You got the step. There's no big hump in the middle here. It's very open. Swing your feet across. You've got a suspension seat, armrests. One of the nicest things, tilt steering column. Getting on and off or using this while sitting back and relaxing is very comfortable, very easy to use. These will have things like on the LX, you're going to have cruise control. So if you've got long pastures to bush hog or to finish mower, you actually have cruise control buttons to work with, which is nice. very intuitive, easy to use display and operator station. You've got things on Kubota, which is nice. They put in 12-volt chargers and cup holders and handles to hold on to. Your folding roll bar here on the LX is a very simple pull pin, folds right down. On the L series, we're going to see it's a little bit more difficult to do. Again, talking about comfort, this is a very comfortable machine. Probably one of the most comfortable tractors you can sit on and operate. To get out, pop the steering wheel up, you're good to go. It's as simple as that. If we go over to the L2501, we're going to walk around here. It's still nice, but again, it's more of an industrial grade. So we've got the metal floorboard. There's no rubber floor mat with these holes for drain and dirt to go through. You've got this big metal casing here, which houses your transmission, is basically underneath this. This is what protects it. Very basic seat. No armrest, nothing special, nothing fancy on it. No tilt steering column. None of that. There's no cruise control standard. It's all a very basic setup. It's a good workhorse tractor, and it's very good because it's less to go wrong, less to break, less to damage, because everything is solid. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for something you don't want to break, it's going to be simple, basic for forever, L Series. Something a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more easy to operate, a little bit easier for the overall general operator or homeowner, LX again. Next, we're going to start working our way back to the 3-point hitch. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on the 3-point hitch here. The overall width of these tractors, I've got a 66-inch box blade on both tractors. It barely covers the tire width on this. So you can see an inch or two of overlap on either side. On the LX, there is a lot more overlap. It's a lot more space on these tires that it overlaps. This is about a 2.5-inch wider tractor on the L Series versus the LX. That also reduces your turn radius. So those tighter turns, those tighter areas you can't get into. So all these little things that keep adding up. Your actual overall ground clearance, most people would think the L Series would be better. Surprisingly, the LX is 1 inch taller. 1 inch doesn't make a munch when you're at 13 or 14 inches of ground clearance, but technically, little specs add up. That is a taller off the ground tractor, which also means your center of gravity, with it being skinnier and taller, your center of gravity is up. Hillsides and slopes, be more careful on the LX versus the L Series. 3-point hitches are very similar. The LX does have telescoping stabilizers right here. That does make life a lot easier when adjusting and putting on this box blade. The L2501 has the good old, and the 33 and 39 has the good old turnbuckle style. Kubota does offer a very affordable kit to adjust from these turnbuckle to the telescoping. For anybody who's having problems on their L Series with those, I always recommend just buy the kit from your dealership, install it. It makes life so much easier when hooking up box plates. Trust me, because I curse when I have to hook up a standard L versus an LX. It's so much easier. One of the big things I want to touch on, we talked about that front axle. The LX is about this and the L Series is about that. It's the same thing for the rear axle. Kubota designs these tractors to be a little bit lighter. So on our L Series here, we've got that heavy-duty cast transmission. That's cast steel rear transmission. That weighs a lot. This L Series with a loader probably weighs close to 1,000 pounds more, half a ton more than the LX because of that. So that cast rear end means you can't damage it near as easy, but it means if you're on turf or ground that is potential to be damaged, it's going to damage it a lot easier. If we go look at this LX Series rear end, you can see it's a smaller cast aluminum. It doesn't have that big cast iron housing on it. So it's a smaller rear axle, smaller transmission housing, cast aluminum, and they do it for a reason. You'd say, oh, that's cheap. That's not heavy duty. It's there for a reason. You can put a belly mower on an LX. You cannot put a belly mower on a Grand L. There's no mid-PTO option for it. That's an industrial grade push-pull load machine. Where this, you can put a belly mower, you mow your grass, you can pick up with the front end loader, you can put a bush hog on the back then. But they want the tractor to be light, so when you're mowing your grass, you don't damage your turf. So those people say, that light end rear axle, it's designed that way. It's meant this way to be a lighter tractor with the same horsepower and a very similar frame and footprint tractor that is more capable. Then it always comes down at the end is price point. What is more expensive? Surprisingly, they're very close in price, usually within $500 to $1,000 of each other one horsepower versus the next horsepower. So the 25 versus the 26, or the 33 versus the 33, they're going to be very similar in pricing. So it comes down to all these little features I've talked about. So as I always recommend, go to your dealership. If they've got inventory, hop on it, test drive them both, see which one is more for you. We sell a ton of L Series, but recently we started to sell a ton of LXs as well. It's a very capable machine, even though it's lighter and still a little bit more comfortable to use. Whereas that L Series, if you want something that's going to last 30, 40, 50, 60 years without taking damage, get an L Series. So talk to your sales guys, check them out in person. Looking at these videos are great, but see if you can check them out in person and make the right decision when you're looking for a tractor.